and we're going to read Tyrannosaurus Drip. Okay, that's by Julia Donaldson and David Roberts. Okay, so let's give it a go. In a swamp beside a river, where the land was thick with veg, lived a herd of duck-billed dinosaurs who roamed the water's edge. And they hooted up with rivers, and they hooted up with reeds, and they hooted up with bellyfuls of juicy water reeds. Now, across the rushy river, on a hill the other side, lived a mean Tyrannosaurus with his grim and grisly bride. And they shouted up with hunting, and they shouted up with war, and they shouted up with bellyfuls of duck-billed dinosaur. But the two Tyrannosauruses, so grisly, mean and grim, couldn't catch the duck-billed dinosaurs because they couldn't swim. And they muttered, down with water, and they muttered, down with wet, and they muttered, what a shame that bridges have not been invented yet. Now, a little Compsognathus, I'm not sure if I've said that right, but for short we'll call her Comp, found a duckbill egg and stole it from a nest beside the swamp. And she swam with it, and ran with it, and murmured, clever me, and won't the baby Comps be thrilled with duckbill egg for tea? This is the word I struggled with. If any of you dinosaur geniuses can do it. Compsognathus. Big word. But she dropped the egg in terror and went running for her life from the mean Tyrannosaurus and his grim and grisly wife. And the duckbill egg went rolling, and at last it came to rest in all of unlikely places, the Tyrannosaurus nest. Now, the mother T had great big jaws and great enormous legs, but her brain was rather little, and she couldn't count her eggs, and she sang, hatch out my terrors with your scaly little tails, and your spiky little toothies, and your scary little nails. So she hasn't noticed that there's another egg. Out hatched babies 1 and 2, as perfect as could be, but Mother T was horrified by baby number 3. And she grumbled, he looks weedy, and she grumbled, he looks weak, and she grumbled, what long arms, and look at his mouth and his beak. He just needs feeding up, said Dad, and gave the babe some meat. The first 2 gulped and guzzled, but the third refused to eat. He's refusing. And he said, I'm really sorry, I simply can't. This meat looks horrible. I'd rather eat a plant. A plant? Yelled Mum in horror, and Dad said, get a grip. His sisters found a name for him, Tyrannosaurus Drip, and they shouted up with hunting, and they shouted up with war, and they shouted up with bellyfuls of duck-billed dinosaur. Poor Tyrannosaurus Drip. They haven't noticed that he's a duck-billed dinosaur. Poor Tyrannosaurus Drip tried hard to sing along, but the others yelled, you silly Drip, you've got the words all wrong. For he hooted down with hunting, and he hooted down with war, and he hooted down with bellyfuls of duck-billed dinosaur. Drip's sisters soon grew big enough to hunt with Dad and Mum, but they turned on Drip and told him, you're not fierce enough to come. And he cried, you've gone without me. And he cried, I like a day. And he cried, this doesn't feel like home. I'm going to run away. So he ran off to the river where he saw a lovely sight. A herd of duck-billed dinosaurs all hooting with delight, and they hooted up with rivers, and they hooted up with reeds, and they hooted up with bellyfuls of juicy water reeds. As he stood there on the bank, a sudden urge took hold of him, and he jumped into the water and discovered that he could swim. And the duckbills came to greet him by the rushy river's edge, and they hooted, nice to see you, and they hooted, here, have some veg. And Drip, who was delighted that they hadn't run away, ate bellyfuls of water weeds and played with them all day. Then he gazed into the river and he asked them, whoa, woo, who is that creature in the water? And they laughed and said, it's you. That night the lightning crackled and a storm blew down a tree, and it fell across the river as the T's cried out, yippee. Why do we think they're happy? So it's fallen closer to the duck-billed dinosaurs, and they shouted up with hunting, and they shouted up with war, and they shouted up with bellyfuls of duck-billed dinosaur. It's made a bridge, hasn't it, the tree? Drip's sisters stepped out onto the bridge, but then began to frown. For there in front of them stood Drip, who yelled, look out, look down. And they looked into the water, and they each let out a yelp, and one cried, water monsters, and the other cried out, help, and it's just their reflection. Their mother scolded nonsense as she joined them on the tree. Then she looked into the water and exclaimed, "Good gracious me!" The three of them stood trembling, and Dad said, "Get a grip. You're all of you as drippy as Tyrannosaurus Drip." He strode onto the bridge. This is Dad looking very smug. And scoffed, "I bet there's nothing there." Then he looked into the water and jumped into the air. And how the duckbills hooted when he landed with a crash, and the bridge broke, and 4 Tyrannuses went splash. Tyrannosauruses, not Tyrannuses. Very different. And spluttering and clinging to their branches of the tree, they went whooshing down a waterfall all the way to sea. And the duckbills hooted happily. They hooted hip hip hooray for the heroic one and only Duckbill Drip. Right, I hope you enjoyed that story. Have a good weekend. I will catch up with you again on Monday. Take care. Bye.